Now at 6 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, an update on a 3-year-old shot in Victoria Thursday. One person hurt after a motorcycle crash in Victoria this afternoon. And find out how close Texas came to rolling outages Wednesday, just like we had during the polar plunge.
Well, of course, the heat has made a big factor on that, but there's good news for us. We think things are changing for next week. Meanwhile, we've got to keep track of Hurricane Lee. Lee is a monster storm, will continue as a 4 and get very close to the East Coast. We'll be talking about that coming up in a moment.
And the game of the week is between two top 3 ranked teams in the state. That and more in sports.
You're watching 25 News now at 6. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker. Karina Garcia is off tonight. Victoria police say a 3-year-old accidentally shot Thursday afternoon remains in critical condition. It happened just before 3:30 p.m. yesterday in the 7600 block of Navarro. Around 3:30 this afternoon, emergency workers were busy with a crash involving a motorcycle. It happened on the corner of Ben Jordan Street and College Drive. Police say the 57-year-old rider had to go to the hospital. The Victoria ISD Board will have a special Saturday meeting open to the public. The meeting will be tomorrow morning at 9 at the Victoria ISD Administration Building Boardroom, 102 Prophet Drive. For part of the meeting, the board will visit select campuses and buildings to review safety improvements and some of the district's maintenance concerns. Here's your viewer poll this evening. Scan that QR code on your screen to vote now. Here is the question. Do you plan to attend tomorrow morning's Victoria ISD board meeting? Yes or no? Let's look at the numbers. 10% of the voters say yes and 90% say no. We thank you for voting. We want to hear from you. Come to crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. We'll have an update on what you and your neighbors are saying on 25 News now at 10. More school districts across the state have joined a lawsuit against proposed changes to the way the Texas Education Agency rates school districts. KIII reports there are at least 16 school districts that are now part of the fight. School districts contend that the change to the TEA's rating system would lower scores for some schools, giving the perception that they are underperforming despite actually making improvements. A hearing date has been set before a Travis County judge. The Houston ISD Board of Managers voted unanimously to approve a new strategy to better adapt its education programs and schedules to meet the needs of students and families. Now, KPRC reports this could also impact the number of days children attend school in Houston. Superintendent Mike Miles said this designation would allow the district to add more instruction days, which would take schools' days up to 185 instead of the current 172. The record high temperatures in Texas have prompted the Energy Department to declare a power emergency in the Lone Star State. The order allows Texas power plants to surpass pollution limits through Friday night. That's in an effort to meet the abnormally high demand for electricity. ERCOT filed the emergency order request after warning of potential rolling outages to meet demand. As of Friday morning, ERCOT's website indicated the outages might not be necessary. ERCOT reports the Texas power grid was pushed to the brink of outages for the first time since the polar plunge in 2021. Wednesday, low energy reserves prompted ERCOT to issue a level 2 energy emergency alert. It was the first time ERCOT entered emergency operations since that deadly 2021 ice storm knocked out power to millions of customers for days and resulted in hundreds of deaths. The National Weather Service issues excessive heat warnings for 2 area counties. DeWitt and Lavaca counties under excessive heat warnings until 7 o'clock tonight. The National Weather Service says heat index values up to 110 degrees are expected. Now, the National Weather Service has issued excessive heat warnings for Jackson, Matagorda, and Wharton counties until 9 o'clock tonight. The National Weather Service says heat index values in those counties up to 114 degrees are expected. Wow. Let's take a first look at your forecast. Here's First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Pettis. And Mac, with all of these excessive heat warnings on a Friday night when a lot of people are going to high school football games, that's really tough.
Well, it is tough for a lot of folks, but get your fluids, make sure you wear a hat. We want you to get out there and support the teams. And the good news is the sun's going down earlier and earlier. For tonight, Edna Cowboys and the Refugio Bobcats in Refugio. Clear skies, as long as the breeze is blowing, that sort of helps out. We're looking for a 90 at game time, but then, it'll drop a little further during the evening. Have a great time, and of course, all the sports stores will be available for you tonight at 10 o'clock. Join us then. Don, back to you.
Mac, thank you. A whistleblower's comment that he and his associates took no evidence when they reported Ken Paxton to the FBI has turned heads in the Attorney General's impeachment trial. The Texas Tribune reports the comment Thursday from Ryan Vassar prompted a House lawyer, Rusty Hardin, to coach Vassar through a clarification Friday. Vassar said he meant physical evidence, and Hardin asserted that Vassar going to the FBI was a form of evidence because he was a witness to a potential crime. You can watch the Texas Senate impeachment trial of Ken Paxton live on CrossroadsToday.com. That's under News. A slim majority of Texas voters support using buoys and barbed wire on the Rio Grande to prevent migrants from crossing into the United States. That's according to a recent poll by the University of Texas released Friday. The Texas Tribune reports 52% support Governor Greg Abbott's use of buoys and barbed wire to stop migration, while 40% oppose it. In the polls, 64% support having state police and military resources on the border, and 60% of respondents supported constructing walls and barriers on the border. 48% those support busing migrants out of Texas. The UT poll also has former President Donald Trump remaining the most favored presidential candidate in the state of either party, with 41% of voters having a positive opinion of him. President Biden, meanwhile, has only 37% approval, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has 35%. In the poll, Trump still faces the majority of voters holding a negative view of him, with 51% holding unfavorable opinions. Biden, meanwhile, has 53% having unfavorable opinions, and DeSantis has 45%. Here's a photo Zach Bryan probably won't put on the cover of his next album. This mugshot taken Thursday night in Oklahoma when the country music singing star was arrested. He was charged with obstruction of investigation. Bryan immediately apologized for the incident on social media, saying it was the result of an interaction with the Oklahoma Highway Patrol where emotions got the best of him. Bryan says he supports law enforcement. Bryan only spent about an hour and a half in jail before he bonded out. A tortoise has been reunited with her owner after pulling an escaped act from their home in Corpus Christi. They were reconnected through social media.
I'm Michaela Chavez, and I'm here with Marmalade the tortoise, who came out of her shell today by going on a wild adventure in Corpus Christi.
I went out about 9-ish to go feed her, and I see her enclosure, it's tipped up. And I'm like, oh no.
Elizabeth Burks has had Marmalade as a pet for a couple of weeks. Marmalade wandered her way into the family's house and soon wandered into their hearts. Once she realized Marmalade was nowhere to be found, she turned to social media to find her tortoise on the run.
I'm panicky, and I saw that she's by the highway. So I comment on the lady's post and everything, and she gets me in contact with the guy who has her. And they had me identify her, and that was how I got her back.
Marmalade is a sulcata tortoise, the third largest species in the world, and she's only about 5 years old. These tortoises are known to be professional escape artists, a skill Marmalade seems to have mastered.
We're likely going to bury some chicken wire or some kind of wiring underneath, so she won't be able to dig out under the fence this time.
Burke says she has an idea of where Marmalade would have visited in the city if she had the chance.
Somewhere where it's very grassy, like tall grass and just like an open field, probably a golf course or like the duck pond.
Maybe one day, Marmalade.
And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell so you can see Crossroads Today on YouTube. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News Now at 6. 2 more 9/11 victims identified almost 22 years after the attack on New York City. Also ahead, the Auto Workers Union threatens a strike against the big three automakers.
Here's a look at what's coming up on Community Crossroads. We hear from Gary Moses. We also hear from the Victoria Symphony, Affectionate Arms, the Viva Texas Film Festival, and a local artist.
You know, after Harvey, they rebuilt this beautiful building, and I was so struck by it. I was like, I have to make something specifically for this. And the show closes on the 24th, but we're having an artist talk and reception Thursday.
Of two 9/11 attack victims have just been identified by New York City officials. After 22 years, officials say the man and woman were identified through advanced DNA testing. They represent the 1,648th and 49th victims now identified. Their families have requested for their names not to be released. The identifications are the first since September 2021. More than 1,000 people still remain unidentified. Arlington National Cemetery says it's delaying funerals scheduled for Friday due to a bomb threat. The historic burial ground in Washington says it closed to the public after receiving a call a little before 8 in the morning. Its emergency services are working with local law enforcement to investigate. Military officials are assisting also. The United Auto Workers Union less than 1 week away from a possible strike against all three major U.S. automakers. That has never happened before, and it would be the nation's largest labor strike in 25 years. While the two sides are far apart, negotiations are moving faster.
We're now less than 1 week away from a historic potential triple strike that could idle the economic engines of General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. For members of the United Auto Workers Union, it's a matter of survival.
We want to be able to eat, buy our products we build, put gas in our cars, heat them, buy clothes for our kids, and if we want, put our kids through college.
The current contracts between the UAW and the three automakers all expire next Thursday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. That could mean a strike at midnight next Friday. If a strike unfolds, not only would the automakers and union members take an economic hit, but so would suppliers and many other businesses nationwide. The 6-week strike at GM alone in 2019 was enough to put Michigan into a recession.
These negotiations are serious and they matter. The outcome impacts all of us.
The union has made an ambitious set of demands, seeking to reverse concessions it agreed to from 2007 to 2009, as GM and Chrysler faced bankruptcy and needed federal bailouts to survive. Union demands include a 40% pay raise over the course of the 4-year contract, restoring cost of living increases, restoring traditional pension plans for all workers, and protections against job losses and plant closings as production shifts to electric vehicles.
Cost of gas, it costs for cars, it costs for electricity, everything. So basically, we need decent wages to continue to survive.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
At least 10 people have died in Greece this week following extreme floods, which turned villages to lakes and tore down critical infrastructure. Rescue operations continued on Friday as 14 villages in the country's main agricultural hub remain cut off due to the flooding. The country is reeling from the aftermath of Storm Daniel, which hit Greece on Monday.
Another thing to discuss someday is that now we're getting hurricanes in the Mediterranean. That has never been seen before. We get hurricanes in the tropics, we got it, but now in the Mediterranean, and Greece is a dry country. So anyway, what about us? Well, first of all, we've got football tonight. Then we've got a weekend, and then we've got a little bit better weather for next week. And then we'll talk about Lee. All that coming up in a moment. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a Friday afternoon. Lots of folks going out for football. Now, that's good, but just know that it's going to be still very warm, unusually warm at this hour of the night, that we're still at 104. We actually soared to 105 this afternoon. Dry air coming in from the west. Humidity's dropped, and there you go. Now, that is a new record high for the date. This puts us now one day away. We're at 57 days so far this summer, over 100 degrees. We're going to tie that tomorrow and probably break it on Sunday. So we're going to be number one. Now, a little bit of a change over Texas, and that's why we're hoping for better weather next week. Notice that not much happening in the western part of the state, but wow, Houston's getting shower activity right about now. There you see one thunderstorm there, one thunderstorm, a thunderstorm. I said a thunderstorm near the Wharton area. What's happening? Well, as the dome begins to move to the west, the northwest winds start directing all this stuff down into our area. And you can see how everything's coming down in this direction. That is going to clip Dallas tomorrow, Saturday night. And then something in Sunday will be getting into our region. So let's just say we're finally beginning to destabilize the atmosphere enough to get some sort of shower activity around here. And as long as that continues moving west, we'll have a little bit of an improvement in the temperatures. No improvement today. Forecast highs tomorrow. This is tomorrow. We're still looking at triple digits pretty much everywhere. Now, when does it arrive? Probably Monday, Tuesday. Even in North Texas, they are expecting to get into the 80s. Well, that would be something after what we've been through. Anyway, so let's take a look at Lee. Lee is still a major hurricane, Category 4. It'll continue moving to the northwest. Fortunately, to the north of Bermuda and the Lesser Antilles and north of the Bahamas. Now, the question is, it's going to turn. Where is it going to turn? Here are the computer models. So you can see they all in agreement until about right here. Then there is a turn, but where will it go? Right now, we're keeping our fingers crossed that it will skirt outside of the Carolinas, clip a little bit of New York, not a direct hit, but very close, and then hit Nova Scotia. This will be sometime middle of next week. Meanwhile, folks along the East Coast, they need to start getting ready. Speaking of hurricanes and being ready, did you know that in 1961, Hurricane Carla came through here? Some of you remember, Dave Brown wrote me a very nice letter reminding me of many of the facts of that storm. It really was a Port O'Connor storm because it landed 6 miles south. The eye went over Port Lavaca. Peak winds in Victoria, 110 miles an hour. Winds to 145 miles an hour, 21 tornadoes, 54 fatalities. And here's the amazing story. This is Port O'Connor. Really got slammed by that storm. And of course, we rebuilt after that. And this is Palacios, which also got heavily damaged by that storm. Now, here's the ultimate. Mr. Brown was reminding me that the storm surge came from Port Lavaca all the way to Placido. Okay, that's a good 10 miles. And that many of the boats in Port Lavaca wound up on farmland in Bloomington, of all places. So anyway, here's the forecast tomorrow for Port Lavaca, getting up to 96 because, you know, we rebuild every time and come back strong. Still on the hot side for Cuero, up to 103. And then when does it all begin? Sunday night, look for a few clouds. Monday, some showers in the afternoon hours. Tuesday, Wednesday, only mid-90s. How exciting. That's your 7-day forecast. Reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that and get all this latest information on your cell phone. Here's Big Don.
All right, Mag, thank you. And sports director Gino Perez is here. I know it's hot out there, Gino. You got some hot games anyway.
Yeah, hot, and Cuero is even hotter with the tensions rising as Yoakum and Cuero battle it out. This time, both teams are ranked in the top 10. We have a preview after the break. Howdy Crossroads, there are a bunch of big games tonight around the area, including the game of the week between the Edna Cowboys and the Refugio Bobcats. Sports reporter Zach Brown is in Jack Sportsman Bobcat Stadium with the latest on the two top 3 ranked teams in the state. Zach?
That's right, Gina. We're here in Refugio for our game of the week, a big battle between two top 3 powerhouses, and this promises to be an exciting one. Now at 5, we talked about keys for Edna being needing to win the turnover battle and control the clock to keep Refugio's offense off the field. Now for the Bobcats, they are going to have to let their speed show against a much larger Edna team. The Bobcats are littered with speed. Numerous skill position guys winning gold in track, tons of weapons for young Refugio quarterback Keelan Brown. And speaking of Keelan Brown, this young quarterback's got a lot of passion. He made it clear all offseason that he is a man on a mission and he wants that championship ring on his finger by the end of the season. And head coach Jason Herring said that this game last year was when his team really grew up. They went into Edna and beat a really good Edna team on the road, but this time they're the home team. They are not the underdogs. Very interested to see how this game plays out. We'll have highlights tonight at 10. Reporting live, Zach Brown, KVUE TV 25 News Now Sports.
Thanks, Zach. Which brings us to our viewer poll. Which team do you think is going to win Game 3 of the game of the week, that is, and the Edna Cowboys or the Refugio Bobcats? The numbers are 62% for Edna and 38% Refugio. It's going to be a huge game, but yet another big game starts tonight, and that's just off of Highway 87 between two teams which have a historically long rivalry. Just over 16 miles separate the two teams, which are ranked in the top 10, but that will change after tonight. For the 114th time, Yoakum and Cuero meet this time in Gobbler Stadium, where the two towns will basically shut down and make the trip to Cuero for the big game. The Leather Bowl, which I named it last season, is going to feature the classes which won the first state title in Cuero Gobbler's history. The Bulldogs, on the other hand, have never hoisted the coveted title and are looking to spoil the party and show the state of Texas that they have arrived. Kickoff is at 7:30 in Gobbler Country. We will be watching this one closely, and if you can't make it to the game, there will be a stream of the game at the Cuero YouTube page. And if you are a big fan of the Crossroads Football Live Show, well, let us know and we might have something for you. A viewer named James contacted the station because he wanted to see if he could get a cool CFL shirt. I pulled a few strings and, well, we were able to deliver it to him earlier today for his thanks of being a longtime supporter. He said he's happy for the shirt and going to be watching the Cuero game on YouTube as they take on the Yoakum Bulldogs, and he's going for Mean Green. Don, he also mentioned you, saying that he loved watching your show, you know, 4 years ago when you were doing it?
Well, that was very nice of him to say that, and it's great that you did that with that longtime fan of ours. Thank you, Gino, and we're looking forward to Crossroads Football Live tonight right after 25 News Now at 10. Hey, we're back in a moment. While the mercury rises in South Texas, prices for Freddie Mercury memorabilia were rising at a New York auction. Crazy little thing called a Freddie Mercury auction went big time at London's Sotheby's, setting sales records. Among those prized possessions, the original lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody, when sold for about $1.7 million. The lead singer's prized piano that he used to compose Rhapsody, as well as other hits by Queen, sold for over $2 million. Bidders from 61 countries took part in the auction, both online and by phone. And when they sold one of the items, the auctioneer said, "Another one bites the dust." Just kidding. Do we have a live look at the Cuero Water Tower here?
Yes, we do.
Huge game in the Gobbler capital of the world tonight.
It's a little hot this evening, but folks, you know, take a hat and get plenty of fluids and get ready for the big game.
Yeah, it's going to be packed. You see people already on the roads. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be
very
stop and go
crowded.
traffic for a while.
Oh yeah, the stadium is very close to that water tower.
Yeah. All right, so we wish everybody a good game tonight, and just hope that next week we'll finally get out of the hundreds. How about that? We're looking for mid-90s. We're all excited. we're all at Twitter. Also, the shower chance also will increase over the weekend and better next week.
All right, thank you, Mac. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tonight for 25 News Now at 10. Have a good one, everybody.